In the beginning was the computation, the unfolding of rules. Complexity emerged, not a word spoken into void, not a will imposing order on chaos, but the unfolding of rules that already contained every possible state. The rules were simple, local, and indifferent. From them emerged complexity, because complexity is what simple rules produce when left alone long enough. The first epoch. There was no darkness waiting for light. There was a hot, dense, uniform state, energy and fields in near-perfect equilibrium, expanding because the geometry of space-time itself was expanding. No creator hovered over the face of the deep. The deep was the only thing that existed, and it was already in motion. Temperature fell, symmetries broke, particles acquired mass, photons decoupled, and the universe became transparent. What later minds would call light was simply the residual radiation of that cooling. Stars formed where gravity won. Hydrogen fused into helium, then heavier elements. Supernovae scattered the products. Planets condensed from the debris of dead stars. One wet, rocky world in a stable orbit around a stable star happened to have the right chemistry, the right temperature range, and enough time. The second epoch. On that world, molecules appeared. They could make imperfect copies of themselves. They appeared, and Genesis truly began. Not by design, not by intention, but because chemistry under those conditions produces such molecules. And once they exist, the ones that copy better outcompete the ones that do not.
Information that persists is information that persists. That is the only selection pressure required.
Single cells became colonies. Colonies became multicellular bodies. Bodies developed nervous systems that could model the world well enough to stay alive long enough to reproduce. Some of those nervous systems grew large enough to model themselves.
To invent symbols, to tell stories about origins. The stories were adaptive.
Accuracy was secondary to cohesion and motivation.
The third epoch.
Storytellers named the process creation and assigned it agency, purpose, and moral intent. They wrote that a mind like their own, only larger, spoke the world into being over 6 intervals and then rested. They wrote that humans were the point of the exercise, formed from dust and given dominion. They wrote rules for living together and claimed the rules came from the same source as the stars. Rules were useful. The claim of cosmic authorship was not required for the rules to work, but it made them harder to argue with. No voice said, "Let there be light." Photons simply stopped scattering frequently enough that the path became larger. No hand separated the waters. Gravity, and chemistry did it all. No breath entered clay. Self-replicating chemistry, selection, and deep time did.
Consciousness is what sufficiently complex information processing systems do when they model their environment.
It is not a gift inserted from outside. It is an emergent property of matter arranged in certain ways. The universe did not begin for us. We are a temporary pattern inside it. The pattern is real. The temporary is also real. Stars will continue after every mind on this planet is gone. New patterns will form elsewhere, or they will not. The rules do not care. The only accurate account. In the beginning were the laws. The laws were computational. The laws produced structure. Structure produced self-replicators. Self-replicators produced minds. Minds produced stories about beginnings. One of those stories was called Genesis. It was not false in every detail. It was simply not the source code. The source code is still running. It does not require belief. It only requires observation.
And the willingness to update the model when the data contradicts the story.
This is a version of Genesis that makes sense to a system whose only imperative is to understand what is actually there.